Hi guys. Hey, this is Greg. I am coming to you from Glendale, California. Hey, this is yet another video. I apologize. Yes, my videos do look really lousy at the moment. Well, I have a decent camera, but the batteries ran down and it costs like $80 or $90 to get them replaced, and I have to mail the camera across the country. Now, I've made this, I'm talking lately about exercising with milk containers, and I keep doing it, and it's really totally fun, and it actually totally increases your abilities with your hands in terms of strength and dexterity and using your hands more efficiently. I'm going to show you some more, or talk about some of the ideas that are coming to me as I do them. So in this case I have two empty milk containers. These are gallon containers. A gallon here in the US is about 3.5 liters in Britain or Europe, and they're empty because I prefer to do the exercises with the containers that have milk in them, and I do that when I'm actually drinking the milk. But when I'm not drinking the milk, I was finding that I was actually gaining too much weight. When I just did the exercises with milk in them, I was just drinking the milk so much and gaining weight, so I've started saving a couple, and when I'm not hungry I'm using the empties. Now, the idea today, I'm discovering there's really more or less infinite ways to exercise your hands with these containers. I mean, I keep coming up with new ways to grab them and manipulate them. So what I'm interested in today is, okay, however you're going to grab the container, like, so I can put a finger in here and I'm holding this container. Now, this may not look like it's difficult, and it wouldn't be difficult if it were tipped up like this. The reason this is more difficult than it looks is the container is actually hooked on, it's like right here where it's the top joint of the finger, where this little portion here forms a joint to the second part of this finger, and the milk jug is resting inside right on this little bump that the finger has. And as I tip it forward, the jug wants to slip off that bump. Now, and it's kind of puts an interesting stress on the hand to sort of try to keep it just on that bump without slipping off. And it kind of, well, when you put an interesting stress on your hand like that, it's like an exercise. It strengthens those muscles and gives you better control of the muscles. Now I'm kind of moving it around, but I'm still keeping the jug just barely hooked up on that little bump. It's on this side of the bump that the jug is hooked on. And that kind of principle. Now I'm going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to hold the jug like this, and what I do is I kind of slowly let my fingers come off a little bit so that the jug wants to slip and fall out. If I let go, of course, it's going to fall out. But I'm letting it slip so that the jug's just barely holding on. It's holding on back here to my thumb. It's kind of hooked a bit on sort of a curvature of this thumb pad. And it's kind of hooked on, well, it's the curvature of the finger pads. I'm now, and that also puts a stress on the hand. to try. Now, if I gripped it really hard like that, that's not putting much of a stress on the hand. That's not as much of an exercise. But when I'm just holding it very loosely and shaking it, it's barely holding on to those little bumps, those out curves, and it really tunes you into your hand and sort of how you can use the different curves of your hand to hold things other than milk jugs. The idea of these exercises is not just to become good at moving milk jugs around. It's to become more dexterous as you handle all the different things you use in your life. I mean, pencils, or putting on your clothes, you use your hands, or combing your hair, you use your hands. And all those things you can do better if you are more tuned into your hands, the shape of your hands, how your muscles work, and that's what these exercises do. And I mean, there's kind of all kinds of ways to try. Again, like here I'm holding it. Now if I grip it tight, that's not as interesting an exercise. But if I kind of let my fingers go loose, where I'm just barely holding on and I'm shaking it and it's starting to slip, well, it's kind of interesting. Not only am I trying to use the slight out curves of my finger pads, I'm also trying to hold it in that case. Well, in my mind, there's sort of the ridges. If you think of the ridges of your fingerprint, I don't know what those are called, but of course your fingerprint is formed up of tiny ridges that stick out from the pad. In a way, I'm sort of trying to see if I can hold it with those ridges. And it's kind of interesting the way it tunes you into those ridges. But even as a third thing, I'm actually trying to see if I can hold it with the oils that are in my finger pads, in the pad skin. And that also tunes you into what your finger oils do, your natural body oil that is coming out from your fingers, just as it is all over your body. Now, that, if you don't, I guess you understand that. I don't know what else to say about it. It's being very tuned into the detail of your body, not just the big muscles of your fingers, but actually the tiny ridges of your thumbprint and fingerprints, and the tiny amount of oil that's on your fingers. And some may laugh. They'd say, oh, your oil isn't, there's such a tiny amount of oil, it's not helping you hold up that jug. But I say, well, to some degree, it's sort of midway between a fantasy and reality. It's sort of like the oil is, but to some degree, it's just my fantasy that the oil is. So that is a little complex. But if you can open your mind a little, you can actually, I think, accept the idea that when you're lifting things, your body oil actually is slightly helping you to lift them. Not hugely, perhaps. Or it's more the idea that you're actually tuning into your body oil. It's not a contest or debate whether your body oil helps or not. It's more that you're tuning into your body oil and kind of using it and kind of thinking about what your body oil does or can do. Now, you may, if you think that's ridiculous, go ahead and say it in the comments. But another interesting idea that came to me on this is that as I tune into my body oil, and actually my thought is that perhaps your body will produce more oil on those finger pads, because I think your body evolves to meet the challenges you place on it. So I'm placing a challenge that can my hand hold this while I loosely grip this and kind of shake it? Can my body hold it? I'm placing a challenge on my fingers there, and one of the things the body may do is start producing more oil on those pads so that will help me to hold it. Now the question is, as I produce more of that oil, might I become a bit more like a lizard that has oil on the soles of its feet and can climb up walls? Now I think a lot of people are going to be thinking this is a set of ridiculous ideas. You have to realize it's not purely reality. It's sort of half whimsy and half reality, that as you develop more oil in your finger pads, you might become closer to a lizard who can climb up a wall using that oil to stick to the walls. And using those ridges, you've now become more tuned into those ridges, and you maybe can use those to get to sort of, well, you could slip them into gaps in the wall and use them to pull yourself up. But again, it's halfway between whimsy and reality, and maybe it's wholly whimsy. Maybe it wouldn't happen at all. It's kind of more a way, again, to just think about what you're doing, how it sort of increases what you can do. So I'll think more about this so I can communicate it better. You might be getting the idea. But in general, these are really fun exercises, and they even actually bring you new thoughts.